It's time to get a review of Zelooperz, Dyn-o-mite!
Zelooperz is a Detroit rapper, came on the scene pretty recently with his single with Earl Sweatshirt, Easter Sunday. It's the first time that he kind of blipped on my radar. Saw somebody tweet about that. And then later on, I saw Richie with a T from Injury Reserve tweet about this album. So we're like, well, we better check it out.
Yeah, but a lot of people also have been like tweeting about this record. I've seen like a lot of hype for it, mostly because of their Sweatshirt track. But also in the sense of people were just hyping up this album, and I didn't know what to really expect from it, because it just, I didn't know much about Zelooperz. I know he's on the Kush Coma track off Danny Brown's Old, which I enjoyed his
now I know that. But definitely flew under my radar to begin with. But Zelooperz is a member of the Detroit hip-hop group Bruiser Brigade and is signed to their record label Bruiser Brigade Records. And they're mostly known for featuring Danny Brown as a member, as well as Chips, Dopehead, Triple Black, and in-house producer Skywalker. And like Vincent mentioned, 2013's Kush Coma with A$AP Rocky and Zelooperz from Danny Brown's Old was the first time that we saw Zelooperz, and I completely forgot about that because it obviously didn't stick out in my mind.
Yeah.
And he's been basically steadily releasing music like in the Detroit scene. So Dyn-o-mite is actually his fourth studio album, and the entire album is produced by Black Noise, who produced Earl Sweatshirt's The Mint off of some rap songs, and Living with My Moms by Wiki.
Which is a great track. He's talking about living with his moms and all the struggles you have.
I understand that now. Now that you've explained it, I understand what Wiki was saying when he said living with my mom.
At first, when I read the track, the first time I discovered living with my moms, it was like on a YouTube video. I thought his mom was gay, so he had two moms.
Surprisingly progressive.
But it wasn't.
Wiki
it's
has
just about
lesbian parents.
He pluralized his mom, his one mom. Getting back to this out.
I've got something to say after this.
Okay.
I was thinking about dance hall music, and Wiki obviously says living with my moms, but I just realized dance hall artists intentionally say me for everything instead of I or my, and that's why I feel like a lot of dancehall music sounds the same. It's because they all use that style of speak, but it's a forced thing. Nobody does it on purpose or on accident.
I think we better get back on topic, but this entire Dyn-o-mite release is only about 27 minutes long. It's 11 songs. Only has 2 features with Earl Sweatshirt and Monty Love. Entire production by Black Noise. It's very lo-fi, kind of grimy, filthy, mixed improperly on purpose. Just very compressed. I don't know if you can say it was on purpose, but it's very lo-fi.
I don't know if I can say on purpose, but this whole thing feels very lo-fi.
I think the reason I feel like it's kind of on purpose is because I feel like a lot of stuff that's being done here was done similarly on some rap songs. And how low Earl is. I think Zelooperz kind of does the same thing on this. Where it feels very compressed, very kind of rough.
It feels amateurish and gritty, but not necessarily in a bad way, because I can't knock that, even though I did 2 weeks ago on somebody else's project. But here I feel like it's justified more, I should say. Zelooperz doesn't feel like he's a high profile artist that should have really crisp vocals and really professional production. Even though he obviously does. Black Noise has made waves himself, and Earl Sweatshirt appeared on this project, but for some reason Dyn-o-mite still feels like a first album attempt versus a fourth album attempt. And I think a lot of that is due in part to this faded, gritty production.
Yeah. But going past that, with the actual lyricism and the performance on this, one of the strangest hip-hop albums I've heard all year. Hands down. Because I feel like he's taking from so many branches, or not really he is taking, but I feel like he's just amalgamating so many branches, or similar to so many branches. It's like if you combine Blueface with Quelle Chris. So where it's it's very dumb offbeat, but mixed with very smart kind of pseudo art rap performances, if that makes sense. It's just very weird, shapeless. Kind of, there's no lines to hold it in. It kind of just goes all around the place. But it's also not finite lyricism that really has a purpose and meaning majority of the time. It's more just going through these weird lines, like on the track Easter Sunday, my mom loves her son like photosynthesis or something along the lines of that. Like on
That's a direct quote.
on Show Love, where he's talking about my hood shows me love, your hood doesn't show you love, or doesn't show love, or doesn't have no love, or something along the lines of that as well. But I feel like he's just going through these weird lines, these weird phases, and it doesn't really feel like it has this definite shape throughout the entire thing. It kind of just is going from one line to the next, very like weirdly paced, in the sense that it feels kind of freestyled, but it isn't that it's freestyle. It's just offbeat. It's just kind of weird, off the beaten path too. Just kind of very shapeless. Tracks like JayJay-Z has Jay-Z's kind of quintessential, or something that's kind of quintessential to one of his tracks. I don't know what it is. Is it string, or is it like a? I can't.
It almost sounds like, the synth work.
Is that what it is? Is it synth?
It's I think it's a sample off of. I think it was used on Daytona as well. Yeah, it almost feels like very glassy, like really sharp kind of synth work. Yeah. I also think that was used on Pusha T's Daytona last year. That's what I got from it instead of like Jay-Z.
Okay, I think I just kind of attached it to Jay-Z because the track's called JayJay-Z, so I kind of amalgamated that, I guess. But he's just completely weird. It's like weird hearing kind of something that's like familiar to the ear, production wise, and something that's very just like unknown territory on top of that. I just find that to be like a really interesting, just like mess of like two branches coming together. Bootleg is completely just all over the place and dumb. Prozac as well, where he says these people need to calm down, they need to take a Prozac. It's weird. This very like shapeless lyricism that really doesn't have a finite point to it. Moments like that have more a finite point to it. I like going into The Boys with Manny Love, where he talks about him and his brother wearing the same shoes and wearing hand-me-downs and getting by just by basic essential to get by. I find it's fun. The Manny Love verse on that sound is very compressed. They use like an EQ to make it sound like it's coming out of a telephone.
Sounds like it's like an answering machine message that was left.
It actually adds depth, and it feels really at home in this very like pressed sound. The Earl Sweatshirt verse on Easter Sunday is very low, like it's
I guess drowned out by the beat,
which
by the
isn't
production.
Anything really new to him, because Nowhere to Go really did that, but that was like kind of intermingled with everything else. And I feel like Mint also did that a bit, where he's just kind of lower in the beat, and Earl always has this like voice that's like very kind of like he just doesn't speak up, I guess, is more of his thing.
Earl?
He doesn't like scream.
No, like
It's
he
more
never raises his voice, but I also think that the production, or not the production, the mixing on his own projects makes him stand out more, which I think is important for somebody that has like a really low voice, but sometimes I feel like other people don't know how to handle that.
Yeah.
And don't do it all that well. But like Easter Sunday, like you were saying, like Earl speaks like really low and he gets like drowned out by the production, but I think the production here is so strong that it like doesn't even matter. It could carry the track by itself.
The bright kind of organ keys on this track.
The organ sounds like really, it doesn't sound right. It sounds like really off kilter.
Yeah.
There's like a couple like off notes that are played. It feels like really kiddish, almost like a kid is just banging away at this organ at some sort of church, and everybody's like, oh, that's great because the Spirit moves you to play whatever, but like he's obviously like making mistakes. It's not with like organ tradition, but it still like sounds good. It just feels like something like off kilter about the organ playing.
Yeah. Hurt Nobody, or not Hurt Nobody, Love Operation has this very like slick lo-fi beat, something that you can chill or study to. But I just like, it's very lush in this compression. It's very like small but it has a very large feel, if that makes sense. There isn't a lot to it, but the emotion that it brings out of you is so much more.
Yeah.
And then Bigger Than Me, talking about so many things that he's had to kind of go through in his life. And
That's
how
my
he's
favorite track, I
essentially
think.
kind of overcome them, and anything that's bigger than him, whether it's a school bully or his father, he's overcame and conquered.
He didn't have to conquer his father. He just had to wear his pants to school. Didn't fight him or anything.
He had to fight the pants. But yeah, I feel like this thing is a very shapeless, very compressed, weird hip-hop album that kind of surprised me. I don't know. I think it still has room to go with a lot of the themes, because I think on the second half it really has more to say than it did on the first half. I think mixing could be improved, but I also kind of like the amateurish nature of it. I feel like it just comes off as compelling to me in this nature. I think Earl Sweatshirt's the only problem where I think he's too low, but I feel like it's very intentional that it is.
I don't know if I can agree with that.
But it doesn't just because.
But it doesn't. I don't think it detracts a lot from the track. It's just something that I notice. And if I like how short this project is as well, and each track doesn't feel like it overstays. So if you don't like something, you only have to sit through it for 2 minutes and then you're off.
Yeah.
And there's something new.
Just very offbeat vocal performances being had, very offbeat rhymes and rhyme schemes being had. I just think it comes off as a very charismatic and weird hip-hop release. Keep in mind that all scores a futile, meaningless right now. I feel like this is like an 8. I really enjoyed it. I had fun with it.
Yeah, I thought it was a really solid piece of work this year, and it kind of came out of nowhere. I hope it gets the attention that it deserves.
Yeah, and I hope the hype for him kind of continues and he becomes someone of the caliber of Danny Brown, or at least on the same league as Danny Brown.
Yeah.
Because he shows he has the potential to. So I'm really excited to see what he does in the future.